So last night, the Prime Minister had a conversation with President-elect Trump. It was an opportunity to highlight the fact that the economic relationship between Canada and the United States is balanced and mutually beneficial. The fact is, we need them, and they also need us. Canada is the largest market for the U.S. in the world, larger than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. It is also the case that the things we sell to the United States are the things they really need. We sell them oil, we sell them electricity, we sell them critical minerals and metals. The energy the United States imports from Canada is more important today than ever, at a time when we see how hungry AI is for energy, and Canada's critical minerals and metals are absolutely essential as North America and as the US seeks to develop supply chains which are resilient and secure and are not increasing our dependency on China. We will be taking, our government, a Team Canada approach. The Prime Minister tomorrow will be meeting with the First Ministers of provinces and territories across the country. We have been working and will continue to work with business and labour leaders. This is a moment when Canada needs to be united, we need to be strong, and we need to be smart. There are significant challenges. We know that. We also know that there are real opportunities, and we know that by working together, Canada can be successful. And the final thing I'll point out is yesterday we had the 4th meeting of the Canada-US Cabinet Committee, which I chair, which Minister LeBlanc is the vice chair of. From the outset, the view of the committee has been that the initial principal issues in the Canada-US relationship would be the border and the trade relationship. So we have been focused on precisely this space from the beginning. Now you look like a giant. Okay.
Merci beaucoup, Christia. As my colleague said, President Trump's comments last evening are an opportunity for us to say to Canadians that we absolutely share the Americans' concern around the integrity of the border, the security of the border. In fact, this is work that we have been doing jointly with the United States for decades. We think it's absolutely appropriate for Canadians to decide who comes into Canada and for Americans to decide who enters the United States of America. This is work that is done on a daily basis between the RCMP, the FBI, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms in the United States, the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, the Border Services Agency in Canada is doing this work every day. Intelligence information is shared between both countries, including in the fight against fentanyl and the toxic drug crisis that is affecting Canadians and Canadian families as it is the United States. So this work is done literally on a daily basis between law enforcement in Canada and the United States. It's work that we'll continue to do. The Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister and I are constantly working with the RCMP, Border Services, to see what additional tools or additional resources they may need to do the work that Canadians expect them to do and that our American partners want to do in collaboration with us. So we have, in recent days, worked with the RCMP and Border Services about continuing to support them in in terms of acquiring new technologies, drones, helicopters, additional human resources necessary in the case of surge requirements. All of this work is being done, has been done for many months.
Have you spoken to from the United States since this news has dropped? We know you have an extensive Rolodex. Just curious on who you've been in touch with.
I think the important conversation is the conversation that the Prime Minister had with the President-elect. Of course, there have been a lot of conversations that I've had, that other colleagues have had with American business leaders, with American elected officials. So we have been talking to them intensely since before the election. After the election, we'll continue to do that. But truly, it's very meaningful that the Prime Minister was able to speak to the President last night, shortly after the President's announcement. That's the key relationship. Sure, okay.
If Canada is going to retaliate with their own tariffs.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So our government will always defend the national interest, and we're going to do it by playing as Team Canada. We're going to do it by working with provinces and territories, business leaders, union leaders. That is the way that Canada wins in a challenging situation. Let's remember that Canada has experienced tariffs from the United States before, not too long ago, the 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum. And when that happened, Canada had a united, smart, targeted response. We imposed dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs on the United States. It was a challenging moment for our country. The important thing is we got through it and our response was successful. We reached an agreement with the Trump administration to have those tariffs lifted, to have the Canadian tariffs on the U.S. lifted, to have the U.S. tariffs on Canada lifted. And the reason we were able to do that is we were smart, we were united, we were strong, and at the end of the day, the economic relationship between our two countries is balanced and mutually beneficial. And that is what drove us to a positive outcome.
How concerned are you about U.S. firearms making their way into Canada? Mexican President Sheinbaum says that actually most of the guns in that country are coming from the U.S. Is that the same here?
So again, I have a lot of confidence that the Canadian Border Services Agency and the RCMP are ready to deal with what is obviously a concerning circumstance of illegal firearms being imported into this country. It's not a new challenge. I am reassured by some of the statistics I see in terms of what the Border Services Agency are seizing at different ports of entry and what the RCMP tell me on a lot of the joint criminal operations they have with provincial police, with municipal police, or their American partners. So there again, we totally understand the American concern around the security and integrity of the border. It's a concern that obviously Canadians share. The Government of Canada has exactly those same concerns. And the good news is that for decades, this collaborative work happening literally daily with American authorities and Canadian authorities has allowed us to keep both countries safe, including dealing with some of the real challenges around the opioid crisis, fentanyl coming into our country, illegal firearms coming into our country. As Christia said, Canada being able to choose and the Americans understandably also wanting to choose which persons can enter their country. So this is work that is done effectively, but we're always looking at ways to increase our support for Canadian authorities, and we'll do so based on the advice of the Commissioner of the RCMP, the President of the Border Services Agency, the Director of CSIS. These are people who talk to their American counterparts so often that they have a very, very common operating picture of these challenges.